Hello, 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 Facebook. Right? Like, hi, Facebook.
Hey,
It is her, she, me, your girl, Miss Jennifer Pink. Look, why is Facebook telling me I'm live? Like, I know that.
we're not live yet. It's
um,
Monday. It's Monday.
it's Monday. We want to thank everybody for stopping in, stopping by, joining us as we talk about building a team. This is one of the most important things that unfortunately too many entrepreneurs don't know, right? Like, and you don't know what you don't know,
Right,
so let's learn what you don't
right.
know. I mean, it really is such an important piece to building a business. I don't know a business that works with just one person. Like, it just really doesn't exist, right?
Mhm.
Those are, unless we're talking about like a hobby, right? Like, you can have a hobby, you can be, crocheting, knitting, cricket, whatever. But if that's your hobby and you make a little bit of money from it, that's fine. But if we're talking about building a business, you have to have a team. You have to have people in place. Some people that's 5, 6, 7 people. Some people that's 20, 30, 40, right? And that all depends on where you're trying to go, what you're trying to build, and what it is you're really trying to do. But you can't do it by yourself. And that's the most important piece. So I decided that it would be really important to bring on some HR pros all month long to discuss this thing, because I can tell you, look what her shirt say. I can tell you a lot of things from my personal experience, from working with other businesses and things of that nature. But I am not an HR pro. I'm probably the person that want to cuss people out, and that's probably not what you're supposed to do in HR. So you probably don't want me to tell you what to do, which is why I asked amazing people to join us. And today, this morning, well, we're still morning. We are joined by this woman is just incredible. I ain't even gonna tell y'all all the things that she does, because I am just blown away every time I see her on my news feed. Right? You know how you got them Facebook friends, you be like, yes, get it, go. She is one of those Facebook
Yes.
friends, right? So just tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do, because
Yes,
I'm
of
sure
course.
you say it much better than I ever could.
Well, thank you first of all for that introduction. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and share, my expertise and the things that I've discovered through experience with the audience. My name is Alisha Pean, and I am an HR professional. I work for a Fortune 500 med tech company, but I also consult for small businesses in the state of New Jersey. In addition to that, I have other entrepreneurial ventures, excuse me. And with those, I have been able to leverage my background in HR to also hire staff and grow my businesses through that experience. So I do have a bachelor's in psychology. I also have a master's in industrial and organizational psychology, which is essentially the psychology of the workplace. And so, again, using all of that experience, education background, I've been able to leverage those skills and education to not only grow my own business, but of course, in the spaces that I work.
Okay, so you're probably one of the few people that I'm having on that have all these degrees, right? Like, a
Mhm.
lot of people work in HR. I mean, I know you have to have some sort of qualification and degree to work in HR, but you seem to have taken it a step further.
Yes.
So why? Like, I want to know why.
Yeah. So the reason why I did is because, first of all, having whether you had a background with a bachelor's degree or not, or if you have an HR certification, you still need some specialization. And so I'll just take it to the bachelor part, and then I'll take it to the certification portion. Having just a bachelor's in anything these days is kind of really not enough for you to really leverage and go after the salary and the growth that you want. So for me, I wanted to pursue a master's so that I could specialize that psychology experience and education into the workforce and the background of it, and not just the day-to-day people operations, but to actually be able to do research, to data mine, to do organizational change, to be able to write programs. So I wanted to leverage all of that and not just say, hey, I can be a generalist, because again, breaking into HR as a generalist is hard. right? Breaking into HR with just education is hard. So, we may get to that later, but, even just having a certification, that's ideal. That's the best way to get your foot in the door. But again, it's based on current, market trends or current information that's available to HR. But, to dive deep and really have some, background in history and, all of that to contribute to the field, I went a step further with my master's.
Interesting. So tell me a little bit about, because I know you do it full time in the corporate world, and then you consult in your entrepreneurial space, and you own other businesses. So you definitely have to use it over there too. Like, tell me, what is the biggest difference between corporate HR and small business HR?
So corporate HR is very high level. There's a lot of moving parts. Most of the time, the strategies get handed down from, leadership. And then there's another layer where, they may do some tweaking and, some data and some stuff like that and some background research. And then you have the level of the day-to-day generalist or the specialist at the employee level that implement it. Right. So with a small business, it's a little bit different because you're probably a team of one. So you're probably going to have to research what's happening, what you want to apply to your workforce. Then you have to figure out if it's effective, if it's working, if it's not working, what you need to tweak. And then you have to figure out how to roll it out, communicate it to, the employees. You have to know the law, employment law, stuff like that. And then you have to train your managers on it. Well, you have to do that at both levels, corporate and small business. But if you're the manager, then that means that you essentially have to verse yourself in all of that in order to implement it in your workforce.
Okay. So what are some things that you would say to small business owners? Because I'm sure they heard you say all that and they were like, see,
but
I ain't gonna be able to do it.
I do make it in layman's terms. It sounds fun and it sounds cool, right? But so for small business owners, I essentially take all of that high level information and say, hey, you have to put some structure and strategy into your workforce planning. So you don't just come out of nowhere and say, okay, I want to hire people, because then you'll end up paying people for nothing and you don't know what you're doing. They don't know what you want them to do. So, there's that. So first of all, if you are deciding to hire someone as a small business, you need to first plan out and say, okay, what is this person going to fulfill? And what will I then do now that this person is fulfilling that? Right. So you start with having a plan. You want to carve out a role. You want to say, this is exactly what I want this person to do, the skills that they need to have. Then that becomes a job description. So once you have the job description, you want to put it up. You want to know if you're going to hire them as a, W-2, or if they're going to be, a contractor, because there's different laws. Now, before all this, of course, you want to consult. By the time I'm done, you're probably going to be like, well, I'm just going to call you. But, essentially what you want to do in your research to know if you need to consult someone is these steps. So once you've created that job description, you want to put it out on Indeed. You want to try to get a feel for interviewing candidates and stuff like that. And then you want to, decide how your workplace is going to be. Is it going to be virtual? Is it going to be in person? Are you going to be working with you separately, independent, stuff like that? And then you want to try to skill yourself as a manager, because it's one thing to want to hire, but you have to know how to manage people. Right. So a lot of go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was saying that's a big piece, knowing how to manage people, right? Yeah. Like, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And
then there's some little things here and there, like, onboarding, making sure that they have all the tools, they're trained, they know what your goals are, they know what your future is, they have a handbook so that they know what you expect, what you don't want, policies and all of that. So all of those things are available to small business owners in bite-sized portions by someone who, specializes in small businesses, that can make it a little bit less stressful. And still high level, but still, manageable by one person, the business owner.
I think some key things that she said in there that I think we all need to hear are, number one, you need to know what it is that this person is going to do, and then what you're going to do, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think that's the biggest piece. Like, we are doing all these things, and then we don't even really, like, if you ask us what we do in our business all day long, like some of us are like, I don't know, I just do it. Like I'm just doing what needs to be done. So then when you hire somebody, you have no idea how long that should take, how much they can realistically do in that amount of time. You know, like we don't know. And then you're trying to do what they're doing because you're so used to doing it. Like that's just
that's the biggest part. A lot of the business owners that I start off working with who have never had staff before, they don't know how to release the work, right? They don't know how to release it. And if they do, they want to micromanage. Now, of course, if you're new to this, they're new to your business, you want to make sure that they're doing it right. You want to make sure it's quality, as if you would do it. But to do that, you have to lay out a process, like literally from top to bottom, what you wanted to do. So if you have a shipping process that you do that's special to your company, you have to train them step by step so that they understand that process from beginning to end. And to write that out and do it as if you're a person who doesn't know how to do it is sometimes hard for a business owner, because they, in their head, they know, but you can't skip a step. Like you literally have to write it as if you're teaching someone how to tie their shoes for the first time, like step by step. So yeah, that's a big part.
And I was going to ask you that, like when you write SOPs, how detailed, like do you have to say like, I guess the question is like, I mean, do you really want to write it as if like they don't have any basic understanding, or do you write it like, okay, you should know the basic and here is where we specialize?
So I've worked with people in both spaces. Like I've written stuff in the understanding that people had basic knowledge, right? And then sometimes they don't. And it's like, okay, well, I thought you would know that. But then I've also written for experienced people that, can skip steps or, make the process a little bit more lean, which is what employers are kind of looking for these days anyway. I've written it for both. So I think that to make it safe, you don't have to spell out, open your book, like to that level, but you do want to make it standard for everyone so that no matter who it's in front of, they can still follow it. But if it's a smart person that's just like, okay, I didn't need step one, then fine, just keep going.
Right. And I think
it has to be standardized.
Right. I think that's the piece that I think a lot of people miss, is sometimes you don't have to do step one. Right? Like if the customer's in front of you and they're handing you the stuff, let's not go through the store with them and ask them a million questions. Like let's get to this step of the process.
Right.
Let me ask you, what are some things that business owners can kind of pay more attention to, in your opinion, when it comes to hiring a team?
They can pay more attention to hiring for fit versus just hiring for skill, because what happens is you'll get someone who you don't work well with, right? They may have a great skill, they may be good at what they do, but you all don't communicate well together, or there's misunderstandings, or sometimes people's attitudes are a little bit different. They're coming from maybe corporate to small business and they want to do it differently, or vice versa. So, I've had people that have worked for smaller companies come into corporate, and they're just not high level. Well, I don't know how to say it and maybe not offend someone, but not high level enough. Like it's not detailed enough. They're not really able to step up to and follow, such a big web, because it's a lot more moving pieces. So I've seen people, get trapped up both ways, but I would just say that, what they should pay attention to is that relationship building that they have to do as a manager, and making sure you pick good people from the gate. And that is by trial and error. Like if you're not really good at reading people, or if you don't do research on how to interview people to ask the right questions, then you could get trapped up with someone that, you don't like. And then what happens is, depending on what type of employee they are, you might be stuck, or, risk being sued, or, wrongful termination. There's a whole system behind that if you're at that level of hiring.
Interesting. I think the trial and error part is what most business owners get a little afraid with. Mm-hmm. But even if I hire someone like like an HR consultant to come in and kind of help with all that, isn't there still trial and error? Like it's not 100% perfect system, right?
It's not, yes, but you do have other systems in place. So for example, if you hire someone and let's say you guys have a disagreement, there are coachings that you can put in place. There's performance enhancers that you can put in place, and just general ways to work through the situations, because it may be a misunderstanding, right? That happens no matter what size organization you work in, and it happens day to day, no matter if you have one other person or 50 other people. You just are going to have personality clashes or where people don't agree. Like, for example, in behavioral based interviewing, one of the questions could be, how do you handle when you don't agree with your boss? Or, how do you handle a challenge? Or how do you handle when you want to implement something and no one else agrees? So to be able to answer that question as a candidate is important, but it's also for you as the employer to say, okay, well, based on how this person answered, they may come with some sauce and I'm not going to like it. Okay, so how am I as a manager going to handle that also? So it's learning for both.
I like that. And I think too many of us don't ask those questions that we used to get asked, right? Like when we went and got a job, before, we don't ask those questions anymore. Like, because we probably thought that they were irritating, annoying questions. Mm-hmm. And so we were like, I'm not going to ask people these questions, but you just brought up how important it is, because even though I know, a lot of times we give like the PC answer or the right answer, right? Mm-hmm. You can kind of see through it. You can see through certain things and you can hear the sauce come out a little bit, or
right.
I think that that's important.
You know what? On the downside, I know this is like business owner chat, but on the downside of that, you do, as a candidate, have some people who may have made mistakes in the past or may not have the experience to answer the question using a real example. So, for them, still giving them the opportunity to talk through it and, give what they would do is something that business owners should keep in mind too, because you may have someone who in the past may have been a little saucy at work, but now, they understand how to communicate a little bit better. So, still being able to look for those kind of changes is important too.
You seen somebody be saucy, not be saucy no more? I ain't seen that. I'm just saying.
Listen, I believe
usually we don't know how to turn the sauce off.
I know. Well, at least, for work, for you to make your coins, you might have to turn the sauce down a little bit.
That is true. Let me see, because you were just like answering all the questions so easily.
I mean, this is every day, and I think a lot of people don't get to see that side because, of course, when I'm on social media and stuff, I'm posting about stuff, but I'm posting about more fun stuff. So they don't really get to see like the real deal behind a lot of the stuff that, I engage with either at work or consulting for small businesses.
So tell us tell us one of like your consulting nightmares in HR so that we can learn from it. Like
for small business?
Yeah.
So I would say the only nightmare that I've had to deal with was one business owner, like getting their services started, paying for their stuff, and then not utilizing the service. So for example, they were, I don't want to say who, but they signed up for services and they wanted to kind of reconstruct their workforce, like basically get rid of people, bring in a whole new workforce so that they could kind of reform how they're running the business, because they were in a critical space of, okay, I need some staff, but the staff that I have is really terrible. So I still need somebody to work while I figure out the rest. So, that person just didn't really engage and really didn't take the time to use the services to help him make those transitions. So because of that, he's still stuck with the same staff that he has. And I'm like, okay, you want to start today, or I check on you in 6 months? I don't want you to keep dealing with the same nightmare of, whatever your staffing issues are, because you don't want to dedicate the time to, go ahead and get the process started. So, I would say the biggest nightmare in general that I try to coach business owners through is allow the process to work. Let me come in and do what it is that I do. It doesn't take any control from you. It doesn't take any ownership over your workforce if they have one in place already. It doesn't take the ownership from you to that. It just, gives more structure to you for you to be able to do the things that you want to do.
I love that though, because I think that we experience that in every part of small business, right? People reach out, they need your services, they invest in your services, and then they kind of don't utilize the services, right? Or they don't utilize all the service. And then it's like, well, that's why you stay stuck.
Yeah.
Like, how else do you get to the next point? How else do you get unstuck unless you use the tools and resources you have at your disposal? Right. So that's so interesting that even happens in this space, right? Like,
yeah,
you hate all these people that you brought into your business, but you're not willing to take the 10, 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think as business owners, we get in that space where we just need a body to fulfill the role, and we get stuck that way. And
right.
I mean, I guess do you have any tips or anything to help people kind of prevent that?
Well, the best way I try to help the business owner overcome that is to put it into perspective of, if you don't make this change, this is how much money you could possibly lose. Like, when you start putting it in dollars or in time or in growth, then it might make a little bit of a dent in their fire up under their butt. Right. So if they know that because this person, I don't know, for example, if they're a bartender, okay, if they're not trained, upskilled, or gotten replaced completely, you're losing X amount of dollars on your liquor sales because you got somebody nasty at the bar when you can have someone who knows how to sell, right? So I think that being able to explain it in dollar amounts or time that you could save doing something so that you could grow or you could have time to go do something else as a business owner, then it starts to make a little bit more sense, and they might move a little bit more from that.
I think we have to always put everything in dollars and cents as business owners.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, that's what people want to hear. That's what makes sense to them. If you try to appeal to emotions, that doesn't really work, because it's like, oh, the reason why they're there most times is because they might like the person, so they don't want to fire someone that they like, right? So it's emotion based that they're staying in the situation. So you don't want to appeal to emotions. You want to appeal to that dollar and cents.
Totally makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so well, before we let you get back to work and business and all those things, tell everybody, like, just that one thing that you wish that all business owners can walk away with.
I wish that they could walk away with the knowledge that you don't have to have a large payroll budget to hire. I have a lot of friends that are business owners. A lot of them have just come into using my services because they were fearful that they didn't have the money to pay someone, and that's most people when you're scaling, right? So of course you want to be mindful of minimum wage. You want to be mindful of paying people their worth, but depending on what it is that you need at the time, you could start with hiring interns that are willing to work for college credit. And, the process doesn't have to be, alone and in the dark. You can work with a college and say, hey, this is my, need, and I'm looking to fulfill it. I can give the student college credit, sign off on their, learning, their objectives, whatever. And then have someone, and that gives you an opportunity to understand how to manage someone at a smaller level while you grow as well, because managing someone who's more experienced, you might have a little bit more systems that you have to have in place, right? So I would say the takeaway is that, you don't need a big payroll budget. You can hire some support, and it will help you to grow as a business and as a manager.
A team definitely helps you grow.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, that's I don't know how you grow without it. I'm just gonna be like real, y'all. You can't grow without it. But thank you so much. Tell everybody. I know you only do HR consulting in New Jersey.
For the time, simply because I'm specialized in New Jersey law, but that's just a little bit of research that can be done for other states and their laws, their employment laws.
Okay, so tell everybody where they can connect with you, learn more about you, all that stuff.
Of course. So my website is www.alishapeen.com. That's my first and last name, .com. You can also follow me on Instagram. It's AP Lifestyle and Consulting. As well as on Facebook, AP Lifestyle, Alisha Pean Lifestyle and Consulting, actually on Facebook. And the services include onboarding. If you have your own staff already, some training, some growth, some development. If you're looking for culture changes, if you want your workforce to be more motivated so that they can grow with the things that you're trying to do, I do that as well. I also have a boutique. It's vanitycoutureaccessories.com, so you can go in there and shop some cute stuff. And yeah, that's how you can contact me.
Okay. She does have cute stuff. The hat is right. But I thank you so much for taking time out of your day just to drop these gems. And I hope that all the entrepreneurs who are watching, I've seen them come in and out and in and out, right? I hope that they take a moment and really get some nuggets that they can apply to their own life, their own business, because I just think this whole solopreneur thing has got to go. Like,
we could spend a whole nother hour on the solopreneur mindset, to be honest with you. But I would just say sign up for my mailing list on my website. I do send out newsletter tips and updates and things like that. So, if you're just trying to get your feet wet, the newsletter is a great way to start because it just has some information that you can probably implement on your own before you're actually ready to work with an HR person.
Yay. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
And so for all of you on Facebook, don't go too far because I will be back in like an hour with Tyler Bell of 11 to 1 to give you our final Building a Team Lunch and Learn. So don't go too far. Make sure you come back. And thank you again.